Hello, everybody. Welcome to your game day build-up with the local pundit. A full round of games this evening, and are we able to claw any more ground back on Wickham after only getting a draw on the weekend? So, all this and more in your game day build-up. Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone.
Isn't this well? Here we go. No Aaron today, just you and me. Just the 18 today. Tonight's game, Huddersfield Town at Huddersfield. We're going to get into it. We got a full round of games. We got Wickham. They're at home to Burton. Hopefully, Burton can do us an extra favour tonight. And lots going on down the bottom end of the table too. I think we got a lot to look at in the lead up today. So we might as well get straight into it. What do you think?
We are, and I was having a look through the teams that are out, and we will be bringing up in a second. Not to bury the lead, both teams are unchanged. Both teams. Both teams.
Here we go. Well, in that regard, how did Huddersfield go on the weekend? I didn't look up their result from the weekend. Let's have a sticky. We'll have a quick sticky.
They won 2-1 against Stevenage. They were away. They played in a 3-4-3 system. That is the first time they have used, the last 3 matches they have used 3 different systems as their starting lineup. So,
okay, interesting. And they did lose their 2 games before that. So their last 5 games, they've gone win. Well, if I go backwards, win, loss, win. So what Huddersfield are we going to get tonight?
What Wrexham are we going to get tonight?
Good point, Paddy. Good point. Well, let's have a look at the Huddersfield lineup. Here we are. Probably we should be looking at our team first, shouldn't we? We always like to do that first. So There we go. And as you mentioned when we came in, no changes. No changes. I don't even think there's a change to. Well, there is a change to the bench. Marriott's not on the bench.
Yes, Marriott's not on the bench. Okay. So only Fletcher.
Actually, I can't see. Is he below Fletcher there?
Yes, he is. Marriott's there. Yeah, Marriott's there.
Yeah. No. So that is literally exactly the same team.
Yeah,
including the bench. So I mean, wow. Okay. Well, we can talk about that in a second. Why don't we go and get stuck into Huddersfield now? Really, I'm just no changes anyway. I'm going to let that and going to wash that away. I'm going to talk about Huddersfield.
Okay, so I'll go first.
You go first.
Okay, so we got Lee Nichols is their captain and he is their goalie. He is 5 clean sheets, 13 goals conceded, 7.22 in the ratings. Matches 13, so they have swapped out their goalie during the season, or he is a backup goalie, but he has played the last 3 matches in a row, so he is currently looks like their main guy. He plays as a sweeper. He's an 89%, so that's kind of interesting. We don't usually look at the keepers too much. Clean sheets 61%, which is good. High claims 57%, save percentage is 63%. So a decent keeper, but as we've seen, they have lost a bit lately. So they can be defeated. Obviously, you break through their defense and then you score on them.
Yeah, wow. I mean, well, and moving on, I've got Josh Ruffles next, and he's 178 centimeters tall, and he's 31 years old, and he's a left footer. His preferred position is left back, but he can also play centre back. He's played in 12 matches this season, only started 5, which doesn't sound like a lot. I mean, he's rating 6.83, but I'll tell you what, his wheel Looks very good, Paddy. It's just full of colour. Like
Yeah.
97% aerial duels won, 90%, 96% on touches, 89% on shot attempts, 92% on goals, 99% defensive action. So what that tells me is with his shot attempts and goals being so high, he never gets up there, and he hasn't done any for Huddersfield because he's had 0 goals and 0 assists. So I would say he is literally, well, he's had 7 shots this season for no goals. So that's interesting. But anyway, yeah, we'll see how he goes. Looks like a very strong defensive player, though.
Okay, so next up then we have Callum Marshall. Callum Marshall is 20 years old. He is on loan to Huddersfield Town. He primarily is a striker, though today he is most likely playing on the right-hand side of their front three in attack if they're playing the 3-4-3 formation that I expect. He has 8 goals and 3 assists. He has started 25 matches and he has played 33 matches. So he is a mainstay in this team, someone to watch at just 20. His defensive actions are really high at 96%. Chances created 86%. Touches 71, which is high. Shot attempts 77. Goals only 42%. So prone to the odd mistake here and there, but definitely one to be watching tonight.
That's not a bad percentage for a striker, though. Yeah, I mean, next up,
good. Yeah.
Next up, I've got Josh Karoma, who again another mainstay. He's 178 centimeters, 26 years old, from Sierra Leone. He's played 29, started 22, so another mainstay. He's had 7 goals with 2 assists too. So I mean, he is very strong. 82% on touches, 76% on chances created, 82% on shot attempts, and 47% on goals. So even slightly higher than Callum Marshall. So looks like we've got 2 strong guys up front here, Paddy. So we're going to have to. AO's got his work cut out for him.
Yeah, he does. Moving on, then we have Brodie Spencer. He is 182. He is the centre back, again, 20 years old. And he has 3 goals and 2 assists, which is interesting for the centre man at the back. A 7.03 rating. He has 11 yellow cards. So he is not afraid to put the boot in if he thinks it's needed.
We found Macca. We found our Macca.
Yeah, so that will be an interesting one to watch from defence to see where he gets up. Now, in last week's match, or the weekend's match, Spencer was playing on the right-hand side. So he mainly plays their centre-back or right or left-back, so he can play all of them. And the weekend in a 3-4-3, he was on the right side. So yeah, he'll be chasing up the front. And we'll see. We'll have to watch him coming in the back.
Interesting. Yeah, because the next one in their lineup, very similar, Paddy. Ollie Turton. He's 180 centimeters tall, so 6 foot in old money, 32 years old, right-footed. He's a right midfielder predominantly, but he can play right wing back or centre back. He's played 20 matches this season, started 10 of them. Interestingly enough, though, his wheel is just got one strong area, which is 97% in aerial duels won. Everything else is like 28% chances created, 39% on touches, which is low, 25% on shot attempts, 42% on goals. That's okay. 31% defensive actions. So he's had 1 goal this season, a 6.69 FOTMOB rating. So an interesting player. He had 11 shots on goals for 1 successful goal so far this season. So, I mean, yeah, he seems to me like he's a bit more of a defensive player, but yeah, so we'll see how he goes for them tonight and where he starts, actually, because he's a right mid as well.
Okay. So next up then we have Anthony Evans, spelt without a H in Anthony. Interesting. So he is 26 years of age, right-footed. He's a central midfielder and is also listed as attacking mid and defensive mid. which is kind of interesting that he can do all of them. Now, if they're playing a 4 in the centre today, he is likely to be on the left side of that central position. And we'll have to keep an eye on whether he is taking the defensive role or the attacking role. Obviously, he can do a little bit of both, but we'll see if he's holding back or charging forward. So shot attempts are 95%, chances created 90%. So he is not afraid to get in the mix. He has 2 goals, but he has 5 assists. So he is definitely a playmaker. So from that stat, you expect him to be getting forward. But his partner coming up later, maybe Hodge. So we'll have a look at him and see what his stats are. See if he's more defensive. He has a high rating of 6.92 with 4 yellow cards. Started 12 matches and played 22. So interestingly enough, maybe he has played his way into the team or had some injuries earlier in the season. He hasn't played a lot of matches this season. But
no. Yeah,
he has played 2 out of the last 3.
Yep. And I mean, well, next up we've got Nigel Longwick, who's actually on loan, Paddy, and ironically, looks like he's on loan from Wycombe Wanderers. Well, he was definitely playing at Wycombe last season, so that's quite interesting. 20 played 20, started 20. So he is definitely, and his main position is centre back, or he can play left back. So 195 centimeters tall, very tall, and he is only 22 years old. He's Dutch. So he's 84% on chances created, 73% on touches, 64% on aerial duels won, 89% on goals. So when he has a go, he scores. His FOTMOB rating is 7.11. Wow. He's had 7 shots on goal for 1 goal this season. So he is looking like a very strong defensive player for them and very tall. So are we going to try and use speed to beat these guys? What's the plan? We can't be lobbing it in on a 195 centimeter guy.
We'll have to play some bit on the ground as well. We need to just mix it up.
Simple as that. John's helped me out. He's on loan from the Wolves. So thank you, John.
So he was on loan last year to Wycombe.
Yeah, played last season at Wycombe, went to Wolves, and now he's on loan back in League One. Okay.
Next up, then, we have Ruben Ruskin. Interesting name. He is Dutch from the Netherlands. 183 tall. He is 25 years of age. Preferred left foot. He is playing on the left mid position of the central 4 today. He has 0 goals, 1 assist. He has started 3 matches and played 5. So he may have come in the January transfer window. Is what that's suggesting to me. He has a 6.66 rating, which is average, okay, nothing amazing. Chances created 72%, touches only 9. Aerial duels are poor, defensive actions 61, goals 60%, shot attempts 29. So interesting that he's on the left side there, but doesn't seem to be a great playmaker, but maybe the stats are a little messy.
Yep. That's some interesting. Okay, so next up.
And sorry, 1 second. And he also has a red card. Ooh. So he's been sent off and no yellows.
Okay. So straight red.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, next up we've got Tawanda Chirera, who is 181 centimeters tall. He is from Zimbabwe, I think I saw. Yes, and yep, from Zimbabwe. He is actually on loan from Wolverhampton as well. Wolverhampton Wanderers. So, interesting. Must have a bit of a relationship there. So he has played 6 matches, started 5. So he's not long been with the club, and he's obviously just getting going. No yellow cards, no red cards. 6.76 FOTMOB. He is predominantly a striker, but he plays all across the front, left wing, right wing, attacking mid, left midfielder. So probably slightly more preferred on the left by the looks of it, but definitely an attacking player for them. 75% on shot attempts, 63% on goals. So 41% on aerial duels won, only 29% on defensive actions. I think we're going to see him up the front. So, yeah, he's definitely one of their attacking players.
Okay, that then leaves Joe Hodge from the starting 11. Joe Hodge, interesting name because he's Irish. Doesn't sound Irish, but there we go. 172, so he's just about my height, tiny bit bigger. He's 22 years of age, so yeah, just a tiny bit younger as well. He is a centre mid, and he is also listed as attacking mid and defensive mid, as his partner Evans earlier that I mentioned. So he has 1 goal, 0 assists. He has started 7 matches and played 19. So interestingly, he's not as much of a playmaker. Even though he's only played 19 matches, he hasn't done any assists at all. So potentially he might be playing a little bit more defensive. He has only 2 yellow cards. So for his stats then, his touches are 89%. So he can play the ball around. 60% for chances created, 72% for shot attempts, and goals 64%. So he's not attacking that much if he's got a 64% goal rate. He's only scored 1.
No, he is not, is he? Very, very interesting, Paddy. Well, I mean, we won't go through the bench, but I mean, there is a tonight. Obviously, both teams now having the same starting lineup as last time, as we bring up the Wrexham squad. So, I mean, there's a lot to be played out tonight, and with them coming off a win and us coming off a draw, we got to tonight. We got to find the net. We created the chances, we just couldn't find the net. So, yeah, very interesting indeed. So, but now, I mean, well, what do we think about the lineup for tonight? Are we happy that there's no changes?
That's an interesting question, and we have discussed this before, because sometimes when you talk about decisions made by Parky and the team, no matter what they do, you can complain about it. You can find something to complain about, you know. And if the match doesn't go your way, the obvious argument is always you don't play the same team again because they get tired, etc., rotate. And I don't mind it, to be honest. In general, I don't mind it because he should be looking after players, and if players are tired, then he should be rotating them out. They played decently the weekend, but we just didn't come out with the win. So yeah, I don't mind it, but a lot of people do say we're too predictable, and the fact that we often play the same lineup, you know, it does kind of help them with their prep.
John Hill's confident. He's saying we played well versus Bolton with this team. Same again, we'll be fine. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Look, unless Huddersfield pick it up, they're playing pretty poorly for where they are in the league. They're on the downswing with their form, definitely. So we should be able to take this one tonight. And the interesting factor then is it's an away match. So does that matter to us? We have played well recently in our away matches, but
the form's been better away than at home in the last few weeks.
Yeah. But this is part of the narrative. Our home record was amazing. Our away record was crap. And now the home record has dipped a bit, but the away record has come up to balance it. Now, if you had some bit of a balanced home record and a balanced away record, none of that would ever be discussed at all. It wouldn't even be a talking point.
No, if you could just win away and at home, you wouldn't have any worries.
Well, I'm being a little bit more fair and just saying that occasionally you don't win, you know, and you have bad results both home and away. You can have exactly the same amount of points, same amount of wins, draws, losses, and it would never become a narrative at all.
Yep.
So I think people dive into it a little bit too much, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, Dan thinks playing the same players is good. So working together, being more able. It's interesting because, you know, Hip Karma, morning Hip Karma. I know it's very early for you as well as it is for me. I'm hopeful for J Rod. He's been finding the goal mouth. He just needs to miss the goalie. That's true. He's literally kicked it straight at the goalie at least 3 or 4 times. So it's coming. And I mean, I just think it's funny because I was having a chat to our fearless leader Josh on the phone yesterday, and my opinion was I thought he was going to start rotating the squad, doing an unparky thing, but how wrong I am. So there you go. It shows how much I know. But it will be interesting because, I mean, look, the players are good enough. It's just whether we can, find that magic sauce and click.
Yeah, absolutely. The other narrative, if you want to talk about it, is basically having a 1-1 up the front with J-Rod and Smith. We did not like that when it was Evans in that role. And we were playing essentially a 1-1. Nobody liked it. Nobody said it was working.
Do you mean Elliot Lee?
Yeah, Lee was doing it with Palmer.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't working. Nobody liked it. Nobody wanted it.
No,
and now we've switched it to Smith and Rodriguez. But we have seen signs that it might work. They've gotten close enough times. It needs to start working quickly. It really does, because I didn't like it then. I still don't kind of like it now either. Playing with J-Rod playing so deep. I see signs it could work, so I'm not against it, but I think it needs to start working soon. I don't think you can leave it forever.
Well, Matt L agrees with you, Paddy, but I mean, I'm sort of, okay, so for me, was it an Elliot Lee? Was it Elliot Lee that it wasn't quite working with him and he didn't quite like that formation? Or is it the formation? Because can these two boys get it done? I actually don't mind it as a setup, but I really think it's but I just really feel like, I mean, I keep saying we've got to learn to bring the ball through our midfielders as well as our wingers. So I don't know.
Have a look at this comment. It made me laugh. Paddy wants this playing on the ground through the midfield to stop.
As I say, I want us to play through the midfield.
No, yeah. No. Look, I know it's basically a joke. But no, I don't want it back to long balls all the time, which is the next one, which makes me think he wasn't joking. But what I want is a more options. Go up the wing and cross them in. Our main attacking. The long ball is one issue, but when you go up the wing and cross it in, they're not in position in the same sort of formation when they're sitting deep and waiting for it through the midfield either. They need to be flatter compared to what we were doing. Now, if Parky is changing it, if he is going into training and he's moving things around and he's asking them to do different things, then fine. Look, I'm not the manager, so that's okay. But we have been lacking a little bit from goals coming from the wings.
Yeah.
It has fallen off a little bit. Longman has been putting in nice balls, weighted into the open space, and we have not gotten on the end of them. Now, part of my argument as to why we're not getting on the end of them is part of the 1-1. It's not the same structure, and they're not there when these crosses are coming in. So it's a balance, and it's for the manager to deal with. It's for Parky to deal with, and the players. And I don't care which one they do or how they balance it, as long as they start scoring. And I think that needs to happen soon.
Well, it's interesting. Like, CR, big fan of your comments, so I thought they're very funny because Paddy wants this on the ground through the midfield to stop. Well, for it to stop, CR, for everybody else out there, it has to start. So yeah, maybe. Well, there you go. Maybe we don't need Smith and Rodriguez to score tonight. Maybe because Steve Barton's all over it. Supermax scores again today, and Max, who's the main poster boy on the lineup this morning, or for me and for the evening for everybody else. I mean, we'll just see. I guess it's one of those things. Like, I don't care where the goals come from, as long as they come.
There you go. I was just about to say exactly that. I don't care if Smith and Rodriguez don't score for the rest of the season. I don't. If they're in around the box, dragging defense around, getting chased, if they are almost getting on the end of them again and again and again, and being danger for the defense, but then it's our midfield and our defenders coming up and whacking in the goals, I don't care. as long as we get the points on the board. And I don't care that we paid potentially 2 million or 2.5 million for Smith. If we go up into the championship, who's going to complain that he has 1 goal or 2 goals or 3 goals? What does it matter? It's the results at the end of the day.
Yep. I mean, and look, we've got it. I mean, what's interesting, we've got us down obviously as a 3-5-1-1. They've got them down as a 3-4-1-2. So, I mean, is this a formation that we're happy to play against? Are we going to struggle against that formation? Because that's, I think, one thing I've noticed too, is that some formations we definitely struggle more against than others. We don't adapt as well. So how is it going to be tonight? That's one of the key things I want to see is how we're handling this team, and interestingly enough, on our lineup, I really wish Parky would just forgive Brunt and get him back on there instead of O'Connor, but am I wrong? Well, I am wrong because Parky's playing O'Connor, so we'll see.
Just to follow up there, Mad Al, I'm normally on the page with Mad Al quite a lot, but this I'm not. We could have paid 2 million for Ken not to score. That's not true.
No, I would have scored.
You would have scored. You're a dick. No, you wouldn't.
Wow, Paddy.
Okay, no, they do a lot more up there than just not score. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, they have to be getting near the end of them. They have to be pushing defenders. They have to be doing their job. But if the goals come from other places, fine. I don't care. I really don't. As long as they are doing the job, getting in the right areas, and pulling defenders and making a nuisance of themselves. Sometimes people. No, because you know what? Let's go back. Not so long ago, where everybody was moaning, including me at times, saying that whenever Mullen is on the pitch, all passes went to Mullen. There didn't seem to be any structure except get the ball to Mullen.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want that. I don't want a 2 million striker coming in and suddenly all play is about him to get him the goals. It's about the team. End of.
Well, that's not sustainable, Paddy, is it? I mean, let's face it. If you just throw Sam Smith in and then just hoof him the ball, I mean, defenses very quickly go, well, all we've got to do is mark Smith. They're just going to get him the ball. We'll just take care of Smith and we're fine. We're done. So you'll be up to our wing backs to pin theirs back and apply pressure for long periods. Okay, Aaron's confident tonight. He likes our chances tonight. I do too, but I mean, we're away, teams at home. Obviously Huddersfield at home. So I mean, not going to be easy, but I do think we can get the job done.
Yeah. What do we? Let's take this. I put this up to kind of move the discussion into our wing backs. So what do we think about Longman again getting the start? And Revan on the other side.
Well, and it was interesting, because before this lineup came out, I was actually not going to be surprised to see both Barnett and McLean starting tonight, and only because I thought in my mind Parky was going to rotate these players, keeping them fresh for this last 13 game run in for the season, and I wasn't unhappy to see Rev in because I actually think he needs to keeps more time, and I think he's improving every game. I love Longman, but I thought he might have needed a rest tonight after the weekend and would have been quite happy to see Barney to start. So I'm hoping that Longman comes out and plays well and is energetic is what I'm looking for, because his crosses were amazing in the last game. They were, like you said it earlier, they were on the money. No one was just getting on the end of them. So if he produces that same game tonight, goals are inevitable. They just have to start coming.
Yeah, I do believe that, absolutely. He definitely has the experience, and you can tell by the plays he's making, by his comfort in what he's doing. Absolutely. I don't think it's a massive stretch past Barnett at the moment, because he's still new and still linking up with the rest of the team. So I don't mind them interchanging, and I wouldn't have minded Barnett starting either. Now, Revan on the other side, there's an easy argument to simply say that he is back on again because maybe McLean isn't perfectly ready. After injections and other stuff, and still coming back from whatever he was having done that kept him out. Maybe it's simply that. But yes, I think Revan needs minutes. He needs to gel, and he needs a bit of time. And I would love to see him at top form. And I'm hoping he has like another gear to get into once he's had a few minutes and a bit more playing time, because it looks like he has, but we just haven't got it yet. A couple too many mistakes here and there. Nothing crazy, but he needs to be fighting to take that spot.
Well, Rev, and in fairness to Rev, he's gotten better in these last 3 games.
He has.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'm sort of the same opinion as you there, Paddy. I think we're both on the same page. He needs game time, and that game time, every minute he gets, will just make him a better and better player for us. So, I mean, well, if you take the flip side of my thought process around rotating the players, like especially for a wingback who can play multiple games in a row without too many problems, at this level, some of these guys, if he starts to play better and better, he could keep Macca out.
He could. And I don't mind it, because ultimately that's what should be happening by the end of the season. He's the new player coming in. He's the young player. He needs minutes with the team. Macca is almost certainly going to be finished in the summer. His contract is finished. So, yeah.
On that point, talking about new players, Paddy, like you look at this lineup: Rodriguez, Smith, Revan, James, Longman, all those players there, and to a lesser extent Rathbone, are all fresh players in the squad. So half that lineup there is all new players, more than half that lineup. So, I mean, I think there's a good argument to be said there that, the slow transition of those players that came in, they've worked their way into the team. I guess the only 2 players that come to my mind straight away that haven't been able to really get in there and get a hard start is, 3 now that I think of it, is Scar, Brunt, Mo Farl.
Yeah, I agree. First off, Mo Farl is the easy one. I don't believe Mo Farl was being brought in to be a starting 11 by the end of the season.
He was a project, wasn't he?
Maybe it was hopeful, but it was a project that may or may not be ready by the end of the season, so that's okay. And yeah, Scar doesn't seem to have worked out. I wonder to just a little bit, is there a personality thing here?
Just gelling, like he hasn't quite worked out. And to be fair,
I wonder.
I think, to be fair, I think O'Connell has actually improved a little bit through the season on his form.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting one, because I was a big proponent for saying that Scar deserved to be in the team earlier.
Me too.
Because I'm very much of the opinion, that when you're bringing a player in and bringing them down from leagues above, the expectation is that they're supposed to be better. Because if they're not better, you're not doing your recruitment correctly. Certainly not in our scenario where we have money when we're spending. You know what I mean? We're not just trying to survive and balance the books and get in players that as best you can. We are in a scenario where we should be getting the players that are going to improve us. And I do think, from my opinion, he was kept out a little bit too long. Now, the flip side of that coin is O'Connell was playing well. He did step up, and he did show that he was capable of doing it. So he took his opportunity and he ran with it. And he kept Scar out for probably longer than Scar wanted. And I wonder if that just started things off on a little bit of a bad note.
Well, what I've noticed with O'Connell, especially in the last month, Paddy, is he's taking the higher percentage options. When he's even close to being isolated at the back, he's not trying to pass the ball out around or just slow down the defender. He's getting in there and just hitting the ball out, whether it's with his head or his foot, and he's like allowing his defense to get reset. and playing that high percentage play, which Parky loves, and I think is great too. I stand by that. I think it's really smart, and it shows, because it shows in our goals conceded. Like, we concede very few goals in this league. Like, we've got the second best defensive. I don't quote me on that. I have to look it up. I haven't got the table up in front of me, but I know we are very good defensively.
Yeah, and Matt Al in the chat. Matt Al's all over me tonight because, like I said, I normally agree with everything he says, but tonight I'm calling out everything he's saying. FAL was an expensive project. First of all, you've used the wrong tense there, Matt Al. FAL was nothing. FAL is a project, and I would disagree that he has been expensive either, because we are now in League One. For his age, maybe we overpaid a little bit. Okay, I'll grant you that. I don't think he was particularly expensive. Now, the other defense I'm going to give for potentially why he was expensive is because if he is coming in to be trained up to take the Palmer role, as we know it, right? There's not that many people that can be trained up for that role because they haven't come through the academies learning it. It's gone by the wayside. It's an old school tactic. So finding someone who is big enough to take on that role, and then you have to take a punt on training him up to be this hybrid striker where he can do the standard striking attack, which it would be great, and we've seen him now score, and he has done some quirky things, but he needs his time and he needs to be trained in a brand new role. Now, is he an expensive project? Look, we're not going to know that for a while. We can only answer that 2 years' time to see whether, like, maybe it was a little bit expensive or not, or do we move him on and make a loss? Then we'll know. But if there isn't players out there that we can just buy in and plug into that role, you need to train someone up. It's a chance we have to take if he's going to keep that system.
Well, and I think it's very important to remember, the goal is to go up. We go up. You need to start, taking that punt on developing players that are going to be good enough. Look at, AO, Rev's an example of this. He's sort of, getting better and looking more like a starter, a regular starter. Not quite, I would say, definite regular starter yet, but he's heading in that direction. So you have to do that, Paddy. I agree with you 100% on this. You have to.
You do, and in January when we were buying in these players, you have to consider both aspects, which is one, the somewhat small percentage chance that we're going to go up to championship, at least in January, let's say. Even though we were doing well, it's still a much smaller percentage chance of going up to championship than staying in League One. So next season, if we have Fall as one of our main strikers, even if he's just sitting the bench and still learning next season, he might be our number one striker by the end of next season. He might be the Palmer replacement. Then he's worth the money. If we go up to championship, things change, but you can't factor that in all the time in January. You have to just take your shot. And if we move up to the championship, Fall may never make it into the team. It's possible that that'll happen. And we just have to take it on the chin. It is what it is.
And Matt clearing himself up there. I like Fall. I may be misleading. I'm saying over J-Rod. I was meaning he's an expensive bench warmer. And Jeff Davis says, Fall expensive, fee and wages determine that. What money is he on? Well, it was about $500,000, wasn't it? Paddy was the number?
For his wages. We're not sure his wages.
To be honest, and this is just it, both Matt, Al, and Jeff there, in my take on that is 2 years ago, that was a lot of money for Wrexham. Right now, that's about the absolute minimum we can spend these days on players.
Yeah.
Because, our goal is not to be in League One. Our goal, well, Rob and Ryan have said it, Rob especially, wants to get all the way to the Premier League. And I'm not saying we're going to get there in the next 2 years. But what I'm saying is to do that, well, to get to the Premier League, you've got to get to the Championship first. And to get to the Championship, we've got to spend money. And we're right on the cusp of it. And we're a chance of going up this season. We're right there. There's a very, very good probability that we could do it, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. Michael Wolf. Anyone who makes me laugh, I'm going to put up your comment, guys, okay? Our entire team are expensive bench warmers.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Just like everybody's expensive in their own way, even people sitting on the bench.
Well, we've got 117 people in here, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Just remember, Josh is doing the watch along today from COSM. So he is on. It is on. I've checked. He was having a few issues earlier, and it was maybe going to be off. And you're going to get stuck with me and Paddy, which meant the show's really gone downhill very quickly. Like 3 hours of me and Paddy. That's a lot to take. But luckily, Josh is on board, and he will be at COSM. So luckily for him, actually, just quickly on that, what an amazing venue, Paddy.
Yeah. For anybody who may have missed the last time we have done the COSM, it is a gorgeous venue. You're in for a treat if you haven't seen it. It would be amazing. I would love to be able to watch there on a Sunday for our matches, Saturday, Sundays.
Couple of beers, sitting watching the game, got the whole stadium, it's like sitting in the stadium. It's really, Josh is very lucky to have that in his hometown. So, but look, I just think that, well, I'm not confident we're going to win tonight. I think we can. No. I hope we do. Well, if we create as many chances as we did against Bolton, then I think we will win, because I think we will score goals. I'm sure I kind of had a few sleepless nights after missing that attempt against Bolton. He definitely wouldn't have been feeling too good. You can tell he wasn't feeling too good straight after it. But after the match, I reckon he would have been sitting in the dressing room just kicking the rubbish bin.
Yeah. Just a rumor that's out there. Mad Al was saying he did put this in our Discord, and I've just put the Discord link up for anybody who's not in there, subscribing and doing all that good stuff. Also join the Discord if you want to just generally chat Wrexham and nonsense. We do both in the Discord. We have a couple of different channels in there, off topic. You can talk about anything pretty much, except the usual politics and religion are off limits, but everything else is pretty good. And in there, we have got Mad Al giving us whispers. And he was saying that we are after an 18-year-old who is 5'7", who is looking really promising. And Mad Al's saying he's a project, but he would be an interesting one. The name is in there. Go have a look for it. And yeah, he could be a summer target to look at.
Interesting.
For the future.
It's fun to get into the Discord. There's lots of cool stuff in there. You get to see how well Paddy's winning the footy tips. You get to see you get to see everything that's going on. You get to see the secret sauce that Matt Al drops in there sometimes, and everything else. But Paddy, why don't we give our last thoughts before we get out? Your last thoughts tonight. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking we can win this. We have looked strong enough lately. Huddersfield have looked pretty poor at times recently in their play. So this is one that is there for the taking. And while it is very important that we keep gathering up some nice points when we are playing these harder matches now, it's not the end of the world if we don't win it. But if we want to charge to the second spot, we really need to be taking a lot of these matches out. Yeah. Everything's important from here in.
I agree. We're getting to the crunch end of the season. I think it's important that we do get these wins. While I'm not super confident, I do think we can do it. Yeah, I hope we do. So I think it's going to be great. And let's get the win. I want the win, I really do. So, let's get into this. Don't forget, guys, like and subscribe. Get on over to the watch along now with Paddy. And I guess on that bombshell, let's go Wrexham up the town.
Take care, everyone. Up the town.